Hey there, this is morning number 2, and we're deep in the Shawnee National Forest, but we're actually on some private land today. And one of the landowners graciously allowed us to come and photograph some of their livestock. This here is Whiskey, and Whiskey's going to give us an opportunity to combine both nature and sports photography techniques all in one. A couple of things we're looking for is depth of field control, we're looking for contrast control, and of course we want to stop action with a good shutter speed. And Whiskey's going to cooperate with us, run around in the field, both in sun and in shade, so that's another opportunity for us to use good controls on our camera. Some of the settings that might work for us would be aperture priority as well as shutter priority. Just keep eye on the shutter speed. The other thing you have to pay attention is depth of field. There's a lot of background noise, if you will, as we're shooting here. There's trees and treetops and sunspots, dark spots. You know, and then there's man-made stuff. There's buildings and propane tanks and all that. And there's nothing wrong with all that, but to pretty up the picture, if all of that was just out of focus in our depth of field, that's when, if you've got a 2.8 lens, shoot at 2.8. If you've got an f4 lens, shoot at f4, and that'll minimize your depth of field. And again, if your lenses are longer, your depth of field gets narrow even more, and so it's really nice. At 2.8, at about 100 feet, you can have the horse's head in good crisp focus, and halfway down the body it starts to blur out. But it's like a horse portrait. It looks real nice. So a couple of things to keep in mind and to focus on. Again, with a horse, if it's coming head on, that's more of a vertical type of a subject. So you want to shoot your camera vertically and fill the frame. If the horse is panning left and right, then so should you in a horizontal or in a landscape mode on your camera. So you're going to be flipping back and forth a lot, just like sports photography. So that's why I correlated the two between sports and portrait landscape pictures. So we're here at Jackson Falls. We got a little bit of a hike in front of us and some pretty steep terrain, but it's not unbearable. The water's been a little sparse lately, so the falls aren't very full. We passed on Burden Falls because they were pretty dry, which is very unusual. But what we're hoping to get here is, again, that ribbon look, that angel hair look for the falls, capturing the motion while locking down the trees and freeze framing the rest of the terrain. One of the other things the map is telling us is there's some active train tracks here. And depending on how old the truss bridges are, they might make for an interesting background and or a subject as well. So we're going to get down there. It's about probably a 45-minute walk, and we'll see how that goes. Thank you. Oh, Wayne's got them all memorized. Let him rip.
He says Heller Dam once or twice in the whole show.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Well, we've arrived at Jackson Falls, and nature's at its best. The only thing missing is the water. Apparently it's been that dry. So we're actually standing at the point where the waterfalls would be flowing pretty good. So we're going to make do with what we have. There's a lot of cool trees. Some of these cedar trees that have either been bent by the wind or cracked have gone horizontal, then back to vertical. So we're going to look for some really interesting figurations, if that's a word, in nature, and at the same time enjoy ourselves.
With this, we don't have water. Can't do that.
With either of them.
We're gonna have no.
All right, so falls without water aren't the most exciting subjects, but further up the trail we found a rock staircase that brought us down near the bottom of the falls. And so over my shoulder you could see some of the really cool moss-covered rocks, and we can get some really interesting photos out of these. So we're going to kind of change mindset here. Instead of shooting waterfalls, we're going to work on these rock formations, as well as working on maybe some black and white and some really good high dynamic range or HDR photos. So all is not lost. There's art everywhere. You just got to pay attention, Look for it, be creative.
Right now I'm just working on, got a long lens with a magnification filter on so that I can get a close-up shot with a longer lens.
Well, I'm working on what Keith has showed me about depth of field and how I can focus on one thing and blur out the background and draw people's attention to what I see, and hopefully they'll see what I find interesting in that picture.
Very cool. I've got this kind of a razor's edge of a rock that has broken off from the formation, and the top part of that rock is still reflecting quite a bit of light from the sky, but the bottom part of the rock is very, very dark. And I want to see if I can get the diagonal at a 45 to the frame and not lose the dark part of the rock, but not burn out the top part of the rock. So we'll see how that comes out. It's actually quite interesting. The moss looks like somebody came and carpeted the top of the rock. The bottom of the rock is just kind of got a mossy, algae look to it. So we'll see. Are we there yet? All right, we're uncovering a grave site from a captain of the War of 1812. This is James Whiteside, born in 1782, died in 1848. Captain, War of 1812, pioneer, patriot, statesman, and friend. There's a Christian cross on the top, and it's got some little colorful fleur-de-lis in the corners. Big marble, about a 2 foot by maybe 2.5 foot gravestone. Nestled in between 3 large cedar trees, one of which recently sustained some storm damage. Almost covers the grave site. Looks like there was an old chain link fence that covered this or guarded this area for quite some time, but right in the middle of a plowed field, it's probably sustained some farming damage over the years, so there's nothing left but the fence posts. We're going to take some time here and cut away some of this brush. Give Captain Whiteside a view of the blue again if we can.